Good morning and welcome to the Daily Word. I'm Pastor Jennifer, and I'm so glad you're starting your day here online with me. With the start of this new month of June, one of the intentions that I am setting for myself is to be the first one awake in my house each day. I've got a couple of young kids at home, so that might mean waking up earlier than I've become used to, especially without having to get anyone out the door for school or work at a set time. But as we've moved into this month, I want to take inspiration from something that John Wesley wrote to one of his leaders in a letter back hundreds of years ago. I want to share these words with you today. He wrote, "O begin, fix some part of every day for private exercises. You may acquire the taste which you have not. What is tedious at first will afterwards be pleasant. Whether you like it or not, read and pray daily. It is for your life. There is no other way, else you will be a trifler all your days. Do justice to your own soul. Give it time and means to grow. Do not starve yourself any longer. Take up your cross and be a Christian altogether." Usually our lives are not shaped by big, momentous occasions, but they're shaped by the small daily things that we do all the time. The poet Annie Dillard said, "How we live our days is how we live our lives." Part of what I will be doing in my early morning hours is reading. And spiritual reading is one of those things that shape who we are as Christians. It helps to form our conscience. We recognize, especially as United Methodists, that our experiences help to draw us closer to God, and many of us are shaped and formed, and we experience God through the books that we read. So, I mentioned on last week's Soul Care that if there's one thing I could change about myself, I would be a faster reader. I'm not using the time in the morning to take a speed reading course, but I am using that time for reading. If you were to look at my bedside table, it is piled with a number of different books. I don't let the fact that I'm a slower reader stop me from starting many books all at one time, and we could debate the fact on whether that's effective or not to try to read more than one book at a time some other day, some other time. But I want to share with you a few of the things that I'm reading, and I'm curious to hear what you're reading. And if you're interested in suggestions, any of us pastors would be happy to offer them to you. So, on my bedside table as of late is a book for middle grade readers called Ghost Boys. It's by Jewel Parker Rhodes. And my son and I picked that up when we were at Barnes & Noble the other day. It's a really timely book. It's written in the perspective of a young African-American boy who's about 13 years old and is killed at the hands of a mistaken police officer, and tells his story in an interesting way. I'm right in the middle of that book, but my son, of course, sped right through it. He is a fast reader, and he enjoyed it, and it's helped us to have some important conversations. So another book on my bedside table that's fiction also, historical fiction. It's written by Sue Monk Kidd. I'm reading this with about a dozen ladies from our church, The Book of Longings. I've never read a Sue Monk Kidd book before, but I know a lot of y'all have and are big fans. This is an interesting book. It's well researched in terms of culture and setting, but it imagines what Jesus' wife might have been like, how she might have lived, what her character might have been. Other books have kind of done a riff on that thing that actually didn't happen, but used the character of his wife as more of a prop or a side piece of the plot. This one, she's the main character, and so it's beautifully written, it's interesting, and it's a fun summer read. Summer's a time for reading, right? So other books that I'm reading lately, online you can read J.K. Rowling's new published online story that she wrote years ago called The Ichabog, so I'm reading that aloud with my kids. Another book that I'm finding a lot of beauty and spirituality in the morning hours is a book called Mother Prayer by Barbara Mahaney. And so now you see the books that I'm reading kind of take a turn towards the more spiritual. I'll also be reading the Book of Psalms beginning very soon. I'm going to use this resource by J. Ellsworth Callis to use the Psalms as a jumping off point for reading the whole of Scripture in this year. This is the Grand Sweep. It's been republished recently. Of course, J. Ellsworth Callis is not alive anymore, but this book helps you read the whole of Scripture in a year. I know a couple of summers ago, many of y'all did Bible in 90 days. This is a little slower than that, but still gets you through the whole of Scripture in a year. And so if you would like to read along on with me for that one, just let me know. And you can find that book on Amazon or Cokesbury, even better. A lot of good reading happening. I'm sure you're doing some of that too. I do believe that even if it's not a spiritual book or a book that deals squarely with the faith, that it does shape who we are as Christians and how we encounter this world that we live in. So I'm curious to hear what you're reading, and I thank you for giving me the space to share that, what I'm reading with you. And I hope that the day that is ahead of you is full of blessings, and that you experience God in the words that you read, the people that you meet, and the conversations that you have. Blessings to you all, friends.